Hey everyone, and welcome. So if you're gearing up for the teacher aptitude test, well, this explainer is absolutely for you. We're going to break down something super fundamental, the 5 forms of education. Getting these concepts down isn't just about acing the exam, it's about really understanding the bigger picture of how learning actually works.
So let's kick things off with this idea, because it's a big one. When most of us hear education, what pops into your head? Probably a classroom, right? Textbooks, desks, the whole 9 yards. But really, real learning is just so much bigger than that. It's happening all around us, all the time. And that's exactly what we're diving into.
Right, so in the world we live in now, learning isn't just this one straight road. Nope, it's more like a whole web of paths. And for you, as a future teacher, understanding this, well, it's not just about exam scores. It's about realizing that your students are learning tons of stuff outside your classroom walls and figuring out how you can tap into that.
Okay, so what are we talking about here? There are 5 main forms we're going to cover: formal, informal, non-formal, continuous, and distance. Let's jump in with the one you're probably most familiar with.
All right, first up, formal education. This is the big one, the one we all know. We're talking about your classic schools, colleges, and universities. It's like education by the book, Everything is planned out. The curriculum, the schedule, the exams, all leading up to that diploma or degree.
Yeah, you could almost picture it like a ladder or maybe a conveyor belt. It's super structured, right? It's sequential, it's based on age, you go from one grade to the next. Everyone's on a very deliberate path with set textbooks and exams. And look, it's a really effective way to build a shared foundation of knowledge for everyone. But, and this is a big but, it is definitely not the only way we learn.
Okay, now let's flip the script entirely and talk about informal education. This is the learning that, well, it just kind of happens. It's not planned, there's no curriculum, you just absorb it from life. I mean, think about it. How did you learn to speak your first language? Or the basic rules of how to act in your family or community? Nobody gave you a textbook for that, right? That is pure informal education.
And this stuff is happening constantly, every single day. It's how you learn to ride a bike, or maybe how to cook a specific dish from your grandparents. It's all based on experience. There are no certificates, no report cards. But let's be honest, these are often the lessons that really stick with you for life.
So, here's a question. What happens if the formal system doesn't work for someone? Or if they just never had the chance to go? Well, that's exactly where non-formal education steps in. You can think of it as a bridge, a kind of alternative education that's structured but way more flexible. It's designed to give people another path to learning.
And the key word here, the real magic of non-formal education, is flexibility. It bends to fit the learner's life, not the other way around. So, you might have an adult literacy program in the evening for people who work all day, or a vocational course that teaches exactly the skills someone needs for a job. It's all about meeting learners right where they are on their own terms.
All right, next up is continuous education. And in today's world, this is a big one. I mean, with the sheer knowledge explosion we're seeing, things are changing so fast. Graduating from college? That's not the end of learning anymore. It's really just the beginning. Continuous education is all about keeping your skills sharp and up to date throughout your career.
This just hammers home that whole idea of lifelong learning, doesn't it? There's no age limit. For you as a teacher, this could be going to a workshop on a new teaching method or getting a certification in special education. It's this mindset that says, hey, I'm never really done learning, and that's crucial.
And last but not least, we have one that has become, well, more relevant than ever lately: distance education. This is all about using technology to completely smash through geographical barriers. Teacher and student don't have to be in the same city or even the same country.
The really huge thing about distance education is access. It allows you to learn from home, often at a lower cost. A lot of it is built around self-learning materials, or SLMs, delivered through the internet or even TV. I mean, look at huge institutions like IGNOU or Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University. They've opened the doors to higher education for literally millions of people. Shoo! Okay, that was a ton of information, I know. So how do you keep all these straight in your head? Well, the best way is to compare them directly. This next little bit is going to be your best friend for study. I promise.
Seriously, this table is the perfect summary. Just look at the rows. Take rules, for example. It goes from super strict for formal to none at all for informal, and then flexible for non-formal. Or check out location. You've got school, then just society, then a specific center, and then finally your own home. You can really see how each one fits a totally different need. This is a good one to grab a screenshot of, for sure.
All right, you ready for a little pop quiz? let's see how well this is sinking in. I've got a couple of questions that are exactly the kind of thing you'd see on the THS exam. Let's do this. Okay, first question. So, adult education and literacy programs. Which form of education are they a classic example of? Just think about it for a second. Are they super rigid like a school, or are they more flexible and built for a specific need?
And the answer is non-formal education. Yep. Because while it has a structure and a goal, its main feature is that it's flexible, designed specifically for people outside that traditional school setup.
Okay, ready for another one? Which form of education relies the most on self-learning material, or SLM? Think about it this way. Which model has the biggest physical gap between the teacher and the student, meaning the student has to rely on the materials they're given?
That's right, it's distance education. You nailed it. Those self-learning materials are the absolute heart and soul of distance learning. They have to be, right? They're taking the place of that face-to-face classroom time.
So, when you zoom out and look at all of these together, what's the big takeaway? What's the common thread? Well, they all point to one huge, powerful idea, the real mantra for learning today.
And here it is. The real lesson here is that learning isn't an event. You know, it's not just something you do for a few years to get a piece of paper. It's a lifelong process. It's this amazing mix of formal classes, random life lessons, and continuous professional development. And honestly, the best people in any field, and especially the best teachers, are the ones who are lifelong learners. So the final question for you isn't just what new thing you learned today from this. It's what new thing are you going to learn tomorrow?
This is the brief on the different forms of education. You know, learning isn't just this rigid thing that happens inside the four walls of a classroom. It's actually a dynamic, lifelong journey taking a bunch of different shapes depending on what we need. First, let's dive into formal versus informal education. Formal education is your traditional, strict school system. Fixed syllabuses, timetables, exams. It's kind of like going on a heavily guided museum tour. On the flip side, we've got informal learning. This is the unplanned, lifelong stuff we absorb naturally from sudden life experiences. Think about picking up your mother tongue, or, well, learning a hard lesson when your luggage gets swiped on a train. It's basically like getting lost in a new city and accidentally figuring out the subway. Second, ask yourself, what happens if you're working a full-time manual labor job and literally just can't go back to a traditional classroom? Well, that's where non-formal education comes in. It's a super flexible middle ground for working adults or dropouts. Through NGO programs and adult literacy campaigns, it adapts right to your schedule. Finally, continuous and distance education. With today's massive knowledge explosion, continuous learning is basically a necessary software update for your brain to keep professional skills fresh with no age limit. And distance learning. That's the cloud network letting you download that update from your couch. It connects us globally via tech. Open universities like IGNU and BAOU even use self-learning materials for low-cost at-home learning. So whether through a strict college syllabus, an unexpected life hiccup, or a remote module, education is a highly flexible tool that never actually stops adapting to you.